Hey, how's it going, guys? This is your boy Hazzed, and today we're going to be discussing Frost Strike versus Obliterate during Burst. Whether or not you should prioritize Obliterate completely or add in a couple Frost Strikes, whether or not they're fillers or not. So I've been kind of wondering about this after somebody messaged on my last video about using Frost Strikes during Burst. And I've kind of came to some very interesting conclusions about it, and there's quite a few variables that are going to change whether or not you use frost strikes or if you want to use frost strikes during your burst. So let's dive into this. It's who we are, it's what we do, we've come so far, and now we pay the price, so don't even cry. The world is breaking down, and I cannot leave the ground. Alright, so keep ready, guys. This one is going to feel kind of like a doozy. Alright, so what we got is Obliterate versus Frost Strike during Burst. Now, in my previous video, I was showing you guys how to burst, obviously, how to go about the normal rotation, the safest rotation. But what I've come to discover about Frost Strike is it does have a minor chance to increase your DPS. And on a much smaller minor chance, you could exponentially increase your DPS to the point that you get some crazy high parse, or let's say achieve rank ones in the world. Now it's gonna sound a little wobbly at first, but hold on to this. Just hold on. All right. So normally when you go in for the rotation, you're dropping Remorseless Winter, you're spamming Obliterates, Bloodlust pops up. The Bloodlust gives you more Obliterates. You elongate out your Remorseless Winter. You pop your Obliteration in there. When you got your strength procs, obviously you threw in Syndrico's Fury. And normally we'd kind of use Frost Strikes as just kind of fillers a little bit later on after we've popped Empowered Rune Weapon and elongated our Remorseless Winter. But anytime we threw in a Frost Strike, generally it would lower our DPS. So I'd say about 70% of our testing had come up that Frost Strikes were lowering our DPS. We got less DPS out of Frost Strikes. Now you'll notice once in a while when you're playing a Frost Death Knight that your DPS will randomly, when using Shattering of course, proc your DPS a lot higher. Just all of a sudden your opener is like maybe 800k, maybe a million more than it should be all of a sudden, and it's single target, and you're going, wait a minute, I didn't even burst. Where did that damage, where did that DPS come from? It doesn't really make sense. Well, what's happening here is what I've realized is Frost Strike on a 5 stack obviously hits harder than Obliterate. So that really got me thinking, why is most of our testing coming out using Obliterate over Frost Strike as more DPS, a lot safer DPS, because it really is safer. Now let's say we open up on a target going the normal way we would, and the moment we're able to so-called get up a Frost Strike proc or a Frost Strike 5 stacks, we go for it. Now that one right there, crit, and increased my DPS exponentially. It jumped up to 2.6 mil. A normal burst like that, I probably should have been 2.3, 2.4, maybe with my gear, but you saw it right there. It just beefed up a lot. It just beefed up a lot. Like I couldn't have hoped for a better chance on that. Now obviously this is one of the reasons why Shadow Singed Fang is one of our best in slot trinkets as a Frost DK, because of the crit proc. Now usually the strength proc is really good, of course, and the fact that I have a socket in it, it makes it a little bit better. But the thing is, this crit proc, when you get this crit proc, it's going to push your crit chance up to about 37%. Obviously if it's higher, you're going to get more crit, and it's going to be a lot better. And if you have more gear than I do at a 958 build, it's going to be even more crit. So you may be 42 to 45% crit. And the more crit you have, the more of a chance you're going to have to get that opener Frost Strike off. Because in a perfect world where you could get 3 5 stack crits Frost Strike off in your opener would give you a heck of a lot more DPS, a heck of a lot more opener DPS than elongating out your Remorseless Winter. But the problem is, every time you use your Frost Strike, obviously it's 30% chance that you're going to crit, as you can see right here, or 37% chance for me that I'm going to crit that Frost Strike. And at my gear level, it's really not worth the risk for me to do that. But as the parse I showed in the other day for the that 28 ranking for my eye level in the world parse, I kind of was looking at that and I noticed I used a lot of frost strikes during burst. There was quite a bit of frost strikes, but it didn't catch my attention because it was only 500k DPS across the board until I looked at the rank 1s and noticed that they had, of course, the Pantheon's trinket, which is extremely powerful with the base level, I think when it's added up, of like 5,000 strength, and of course Frost Strike's going to get a lot more damage off of that huge amount of strength. And their Frost Strikes during burst amounted to over a million DPS during burst, and I guarantee those rank 1 parses were getting massive Frost Strikes during their bursts, because there's no other way to do that. You couldn't get that high of damage, your damage up that high, without landing, the millions of DPS of Frost Strikes. Because as you saw, imagine if my DPS was 1 million DPS in Frost Strikes. I was doing 2.3, I get a Frost Strike, it would be 3.3. It's almost like I'd say a third buff in damage if you could actually get this off with your opener. But here's the kicker. Here's the bad part. Now, hopefully it doesn't crit here. Alright, you're DPSing, you're opening up on something. I'm not going to blow my cooldowns or anything, but you're DPSing on something here. And let's say you get 5 up, and you got Remorseless Winter rolling, you've got your cooldowns rolling, you're just going ham, and you go for a Frost Strike, and dang it critted again. Stop critting Frost Strike. Hold up. Keep going. Alright, and you go for a Frost Strike, and it crit again. Okay, so let's say in a world where I'm not critting every single Frost Strike, and the game's trolling me right now. In a world that I'm not critting every single Frost Strike, what's going to happen is the Frost Strike's going to hit, obviously, for less than an Obliterate crit would crit for, which is going to be a reduction in damage all on its own. Now remember, with the elongated Remorseless Winter, if you're using your Frost Strikes, it's going to shorten the amount of time your Remorseless Winter is going to proc on the target, and it's also going to reduce the amount of frost damage you're dealing to the target because you consumed your 5 stacks of Razor Ice. And that's going to be what majorly lowers your DPS when using Frost Strikes. 70% of the time, if you have 30% crit like me, 70% of the time it's going to lower your DPS instead of raising your DPS. But if you wanted to go for rank 1 parses or rank 1 DPS, trying to knock out those big things, you would have to use the Frost Strikes. It's kind of like the Hail Mary of DPS. If it happens, it'll be amazing. If it doesn't happen, your DPS is going to fall quite a bit shorter than if you would have disregarded the Frost Strikes. So it's really quite a gamble. I think unless you're like maximized gear and have like 40-something% crit, it's a fairly good gamble that you're going to get it. But obviously there's still a fairly good chance that you're not going to get it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little video, this little update. I kind of feel like I had a breakthrough on this thought, why that was going on, why that randomly procs. I haven't seen any videos talking about it or going more in depth into it. And yeah, it took quite a few days, couple different puzzle pieces that needed to fall in place, but I think we got this one figured out, guys. I think we did it. Let's go get some high parses. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Leave a like, comment if you have any questions, or if you want to go into more detail about it, or if you have a different train of thought on it, let me know. And until next time, this was your boy Hazzed.